Hey, welcome everybody to Guardians of the CLE. It is February 18th. It's a Sunday evening, and I am here with a guest, a fellow Believe Land Media member, the host of Double Play CLE, Mr. Paul Huffaker. Paul, welcome to Guardians of the CLE. Welcome back to the Guardians of the CLE for another episode for 2024.
Yeah,
How you doing?
I genuinely can't believe you guys had me back. It's like it's almost like a bad rash for me is what I feel like for this podcast because every time I come on here, I'm so negative about what's going to happen, and yet I'm always, always right. So
Wow, I didn't know we were going to start right off with fact checking, but I guess we could go that route. But no, let's. But yeah, let's get into it. The main thing that we want to talk about that we're all excited about here this week is that pitchers and catchers reported for the Guardians in Goodyear, and that's just another step towards uh, playing baseball, Major League Baseball here in the city of Cleveland. We're getting closer and closer. Um, I'm looking forward to this week, the rest of the team, full squad report, and then I was looking at the schedule for an actual spring training game. We're looking at Reds at Guardians, which they both play at Goodyear, but Saturday, February 24th at 3:05. So, Paul, you excited to start seeing some pitchers on the mound, which I'm sure you saw some video of now, but some cracks of the bat as well.
there is nothing better than the week after the Super Bowl because football is gone. It is away now. We have shake it off, and we can get back to what matters, which is baseball, the pure sport that has captivated America for over a century.
Just like I was telling Clarence, I said, "Well, what about the spring football league? We got the Rocks UFL getting
It
ready to
doesn't
start up."
matter about the Rocks UFL.
I love it. Perfect. It does not. You're right. But yeah, we were talking earlier about our Believe Land Media coverage that we had down in Canton with the USFL, and unfortunately, yeah, that's moved away. So, but we were thankful to have the opportunity to do some reporting on professional football, even at the level that it is. There were still some players that still made NFL rosters, but yeah, you're
And
right.
vice versa,
Springtime.
went the other direction too, with AJ McCarron going back to the St. Louis Battlehawks.
Hmm.
Weird.
But yeah, I mean, it's a lot of people are thinking about basketball right now too, as high school season's getting ready to wrap up around here. Regular season as the playoffs begin. In our area, we have the MAC championships for both the men's and women's. We're a little bit excited here locally too, here in Cleveland, to be hosting the women's Final Four at
That
the
is
beginning of
huge.
April, which is great for the economy, great for the sport of women's basketball too. With the amount of eyes that they had on it last year, I believe they set records for that. So, but yeah, we're here to talk baseball. We're excited about what's going on in Goodyear, and what's your thoughts on the many moves that we've made in the off season to improve our roster?
I tell you, man, when you spend money the way the Guardians did this offseason, and I'm talking like the absolute amount of money that the Guardians spent this offseason, no other team spent the type of money that the Guardians spent this offseason. And when you get a player like Austin Hedges to shore up the one problem you had on this entire team, which was catching the backstop position, it was our one fatal flaw. And now by God, we're going all the way. I can't believe
Yes.
it. It is
All right.
amazing. And oh, I almost forgot. We even brought back Carlos Carrasco. Cookie, right? Anybody?
Yeah.
No?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
exciting for him.
It's
I don't
exciting
know
for
how much
all of
he actually
us.
play.
And I'm sure Jason Kipnis will find his way into the Bally Sports booth again this year, or maybe into the radio booth. So we're just gonna trot out parts of the past again and go with what we already have that works.
I mean, this optimism, Paul. I'm just like, where was this last year? You've been healed or something over the offseason. It's a great feeling to just feed off your positive vibes right now. I originally thought you were going to say with the many off-season moves we made, which we did make, I would say probably thousands, was the blue seats that have been added to the stadium. I thought that's the route you were going to go with all the many moves that we made, meaning row by row of new seats.
Oh my God, yes. We made so many moves there though. And I am talking about that because we got rid of part of the past while bringing back more of the past. Like we have all these great renovations going on in the stadium. The stadium will be half done by opening day, thank God, because we need to make sure that all 35,000 seats are full, or 32,000, or 30. They keep taking out so many
Who even
seats, I can't
knows?
even keep track.
I
It's
know.
amazing. If you took every baseball player that ever played baseball and put them in one baseball stadium, it would be Progressive Field, and it wouldn't be full. It would only be 62% full. It's the weirdest stat I've ever seen. And yet we keep taking out seats to make that stat like 70% or
Now, in
80%.
fairness, we did have an increase in attendance last year, right?
Uh, every stadium had an increase in attendance because baseball was back and it wasn't under some sort of weird cloud like it had been the last couple of years. 2020, we know about what happened in 2020. 2021, you're coming back from all of that nonsense, and then you have the issues with the lockout and all that gobbledygook. Of course, there was going to be an increase in people coming to the games. You finally have the chance to do it on a consistent basis. It was always going to increase. It boggled my mind when people were like, "Oh well, attendance is up." Of course, it's up, idiots. What did you expect to happen? Entertainment is up exponentially in every platform. If you don't increase, that's when you should be concerned. But hey, as long as we're still on Valley, where nothing's going to change and we're going to have the same crew there. Shout out to Andre Knott. He's the greatest. I don't mean that as a joke. He really is the greatest at what he does. The sideline reporter gig is like one of the toughest things you can do. Just ask the NFL on Fox people because sometimes they just make stuff up.
Yeah. I mean, I do like with the attendance. I think the guards did some nice things as far as creativity with those monthly passes for basically standing room only. That helps bring even some of the younger crowd in just to go out there and stand, have a couple beers, talk with your friends, watch some baseball. So anything that helps keep bringing people in the gates and spending money is a good thing. Now we would call, of course, are both on the same page where you'd like to see some of that money going towards improving our roster. Um, that we didn't really see that much in the off season, but
I would
we
love to see them make a play to JD Martinez right now. Nobody's signed him. You need a bat desperately. Why are we not spending money? Is it because of the ownership changeover next year, or what? Because I think it was it Antonetti came out and said they weren't going to spend money anyways, regardless of if the TV deal did or didn't get
yeah,
done. And I'm sitting there
that's
looking at
correct.
it, going, "Are you a freaking buffoon?" Because you just confirmed to the entire fan base that this was it. And if this was your plan for the off season, you get an F. In fact, you get a grade so low that it doesn't exist yet. I'm giving you a G on this off season because you didn't do anything. It's like, gee, I wish we had done something. Because as much as I may love Austin Hedges, and I do, his 6 out of 100 speed means that he's not going to beat out a single ground ball. So he has to drive it deep just to get a base hit. The only good thing about Austin Hedges is that he is a great catcher. He is great defensively. And I hope that means good things for Tristan McKenzie, who's coming back from injury, because Tristan didn't look anything like he did when he was working with Hedges 2 years ago. Last year was a down year for McKenzie, for Bieber, for a lot of the guys that Hedges knows and can maybe bring back to that glory of yesteryear, the past, if you will.
Yeah, and you mentioned
It's
two out
just
of our five starters, Paul. That it's exciting to have them hopefully get lifted up through Austin. But the main reason why we know he's here is he's the veteran backup quarterback to support the young guy from like a football standpoint, but for as a catcher, he's there to help Naylor develop. He's there to help not only Bo Naylor develop as an individual, um, but also as far as calling games and helping to build on the young rookie seasons that we had for Logan Allen and Tanner Bybee and Gavin Williams. So that starting five that we just named right there, that's one hell of a starting five because I've saw some other posts where they showed different American League teams and their starting five and how do they rank against each other. And Cleveland's wasn't even a part of that group. It was like five of them. It's like, are you serious? Our starting five's not up there with the rest of the league. I don't care what division we're in. If we're healthy, we are damn near the top. And if we can perform better and just stay healthy, we're going to be elite, I think, from a starting pitching standpoint. It's kind of like when we looked during Brown season where you go, you know what, you got a playoff defense there, and then you're still questioning the offense. I feel that we have a playoff rotation, starting rotation, with a playoff caliber um, bullpen. And then the question is going to be, can we hit for enough power throughout the season to at least
Yeah.
be mildly competitive from a power standpoint with some of the other ones in our league? We know
Well,
that we're
hey,
going to go
at
back
least
ball.
at least Jose's got a chance at the MVP this year. He hasn't had a chance for the last 2 or 3 years because of Shohei Ohtani.
Mhm.
So at least he's got a fighting shot at it this time. And there's so much that is compartmentalized by this team that is kind of frustrating for the average fan because you want desperately to have an October to remember. You want desperately to be able to cheer this team on past the wild card to the ALDS, to the CS, to another World Series, and maybe this time we can pull it all off. But then you have to look at teams like the LA Dodgers, who spent $1 billion with a B on 2 players. And then you look at our payroll and you go, I think we're at 40, maybe 50 million, maybe. And we're not even in the same discussion as those teams. And I'm not sitting here telling you to crown the Dodgers, but if you don't think they're going to be a threat, you're just living under a rock.
I'm glad you
If you
brought
smell
that
what
up.
I'm cooking.
I'm looking up something while you're talking because the Dodgers, that's something that's super intriguing to me.
I mean, I'm in the same spot that I am with the Dodgers that I am with the Yankees. I hate the Yankees and I hate the Dodgers. And that's tough for me to say as a fan of guys like Oral Hershiser, who is one of my favorite pitchers of all time. It's tough to say as a fan of Vin Scully, the greatest announcer in the history of not just baseball, but possibly the world and in life in general. I'm hoping that when I die, my life gets narrated by Vin Scully in the afterlife. And I can just sit there and listen to him go, and here's where you made another mistake, kiddo. And let me tell you about the time I spent with Jackie Robinson ice skating. And that's a true story, by the way. He really did do that.
No, I second that. Vin Scully was so when I first had DirecTV, which is probably damn near 25 years ago when I got it. I think, yeah, it was right around 99, 98, 99. I purposely got DirecTV so I could watch more sports. So one of the things I got was the Major League Extra Innings package. And I remember having it. I'm trying to, maybe I had it earlier in 97, 98, because I remember watching the home run chase of McGuire and Sosa and then Bonds.
Ugh.
But I used to work a shift 7 in the morning till 11 at night every third day. And when I would come home, I could still get all the West Coast games. So to turn on a Dodger game after a long dog day of work, to turn on a Dodger game at the end of the night and him just be in the booth by himself. And he's just one of the greatest storytellers ever. I didn't know this was going to turn into a Vince Scully loving show tonight, but I'm all for it because he was so special. I absolutely loved it. But But yeah, when you mentioned the Dodgers, and you talked about Otani, I wanted to go back and look at the standings last year. So they won the West by 16. So it's not like they needed Otani to help win the West, but they did win 100 games. They won 160, and then they won 100 and lost 62. How much better are the Dodgers even really going to be? Because you can only be so good, right? Like, how many more wins are you going to add to that total? And you're still going to be pretty much in the same spot going into the playoffs.
I mean, you
And you're
look at
adding a
the
guy. Sorry, Paul, but you're adding a guy that doesn't even have playoff experience.
not to
You
mention
know
the
what I
fact
mean?
Shohei Otani's not going to pitch this year. He is
Yeah.
strictly a designated hitter. And Yamamoto is going to be your number 2 because you're going to probably fall back on Walker Bueller as their ace because that's where he was. And it's very fluid. I was just looking at the Pacoda projections. That's the preview essentially of Major League Baseball. It gives you an idea of where people are going to be. By the way, we just got a comment on here that says get that Tigers fan off the air from Kevin. So it's great to know that the boss is watching. Good Lord.
Sunday night, he should be on, taking a break, for crying out loud. The guy's constantly hammering on his keyboard and constantly loading videos. I mean, he is Mr. Social Media.
I would love to put him over, but he just called me a Tigers fan. So, I've got 2 of these that I can give you a little lightning and thunder right here.
Kevin, we need to have Paul. We need to have him tested. He might have been on some performing enhancers during the off season, so I highly recommend that.
Just water.
Just water. Yeah. Not even flavored water, right?
Not even flavored water, just regular water. Purified in Michigan. Ah, crap.
That
So
explains.
the Pacoda projections are as follows. In the American League East, the New York Yankees are projected to win the division with a 94-67 record. They have a 91% chance to make the playoffs. The defending American League East champion Baltimore Orioles fall to 4th with a 49.6% chance of making the playoffs. In the AL Central, the Minnesota Twins are projected to go back to back at 89-71. Number 2, however, is your Cleveland Guardians, 83-79. We have a 38.5% chance of making the playoffs in the number 2 spot with over 80 wins, over 500, and we have a 38.5% chance of making the playoffs. That is just absurd. The American League West is Houston dominated, 95-67 with a 93% chance of making the playoffs. To the National League side of things, Atlanta is projected to take the NL East with 100 wins and a 99.7% playoff percentage chance.
Go Braves.
This is the one that I'm confused by because I just don't see it. In the National League Central, they've got the St. Louis Cardinals bouncing back from a horrific 2023 to a 85-77 record with a 63.8% chance of making the playoffs. Meanwhile, they've got Pittsburgh at 72.9, or excuse me, 73 wins. They've got Cincinnati at 78 wins, Milwaukee 79 wins, and the Cubs at 80 wins. And I'm going to tell you, all 4 of those teams are better than St. Louis.
Well, I know, but Milwaukee just traded Burns. And I'm wondering whether or not that's still. And they mentioned they're going to keep their closer Williams. So I wonder if that's still the same projection.
This was made after the Corbin Burns deal.
Okay.
And then the National League West, which should come as no surprise, the Los Angeles Dodgers with a 100% chance of making the playoffs. The only team that has a 100% chance of making the playoffs with 102 wins.
That's only 2 more wins than last year with all that money spent. That's insane.
That's the part that boggles the mind the most on all of this. And you can dive into all of this and really get into the minutia of it. But the fact that they've got Minnesota, Cleveland, Detroit, Kansas City, Chicago as the American League Central, I agree 100% on Chicago. They're going to be dead last in the division. They have done nothing good this offseason. And you can't really be projected to do well when you're actively trying to move your ace starter. And I don't think he's going to make it to the end of the season with Chicago, anyways. I don't know if he's going to be an early season trade or if there's going to be something that happens here in spring training where somebody goes down with an injury and that triggers a Dylan Cease trade. But Chicago's not going to be good. Kansas City is going to struggle. Detroit sitting there in third, I completely agree. They're a good young team. I just don't know what Pacoda sees in the Cleveland Guardians that puts them, what, 4 wins, 5 wins away from Minnesota? I just don't. We didn't change enough of this team to fix significant problems. I mean, you can ask the question, is Kyle Manzardo going to even break camp with the team? Because this is a team that is notorious for playing around with uh, service time. If
Right.
he happens to make the top 3 in the Rookie of the Year voting, that goes out the window. We've already had that happen once. It almost seems like you're going to have to bring up Manzardo at the start of the season, and I don't think they want to do it.
No, I think you're right. I don't. He's going to have an amazing spring, I think, to be able to stick. I'd love to have him stick. I really do. I want him up there. I want more power bats in our freaking lineup for crying out loud. But the service time, I agree. It becomes, and I talked to Mel about that last year. How many times do we need to just kind of shut down our fan mode for a minute and look at the business side of baseball? And it's this front office is for as good as they've done. Not this is not the part that as a fan we want to see. We want to, from like a fantasy baseball standpoint, we want our best guys out there as soon as possible. But we have to understand the economic side of it. It's not fair. I don't like it. I mean, do I wish we had Dick Jacobs, spending and all the money that he was spending to add veterans to our young core? Because that's what seems like was missing, right? We got a young core, but we're still trying to figure that young core out. We're more around like we're not at 94 or 95 Indians teams. We're more like 92 to 93, right
I'd
before they
agree.
made it over to the Jake. It feels like they're still figuring it out. When Albert Bell was Joey Bell and Sandy was the key piece to that trade, Sandy Alomar and Baerga getting some playing time. Young Lofton that had came over in a trade. So I got a feeling that obviously they're telling by Chris Antonetti saying that they're going to let the young players play it out. It just almost feels like April and May is going to be an extended spring training of what do you got?
Yeah, and you also have to take into consideration you have a new manager for the first time in a decade in
Right.
Stephen Vogt, who has never managed at any level in baseball. He's been a coach, but he's never been the guy in charge of the team. And I like Stephen Vogt. I want him to succeed. But I think he was put into an unwinnable situation here because you're following arguably the greatest manager in Cleveland baseball history, at least by the win loss percentage. Absolutely. There are going to be very big shoes to fill here. And I don't want Stephen Vogt calling Tito Francona. I don't.
It's going to happen.
It's going to happen. It
He's
already
he's got
has.
him in his hip pocket.
But I don't want that because then you are going to be held to the same standard. And you can't be. You don't have that level of knowledge. You don't have that level of expertise. And that's just not fair to anybody.
But I think he's just going to use him when he needs to, as far as different things that's going. I'm not saying he's going to whip out a cell phone in seventh inning and get strategy. Should I let him pitch or should I not? Should I pulse? You
Hey,
know,
hey
uh,
Tito, should I answer this call?
yeah.
No? Okay.
That's what the phone is in the dugout. It's a Tito hotline. Um, no,
We've
I
got
mean,
the regular
Steven's
phone, then
going to
we've
be
got
his
the
guy.
Tito phone.
Yeah, I mean, he's gonna eventually be his own guy. He's gonna look for that guidance, but I disagree where I think he's in a great position to where he's got the right culture, he's got the right um, the team. I think you got quality human beings, not just baseball players on our roster to help him grow too. And I think in fairness to vote, I'm like, for me, if I'm him, I'm like, I got to let these guys play. Like, I can, and I work in managerial roles in my career, and you almost need that first year to just kind of feel out what you have. Some people you can figure out real quick. Like, yeah, they're just not going to click. Not what I'm trying to establish as far as an organization or a culture or a fit as a team. There are some people, yeah, you can figure out pretty quick. They're just not going to be part of it. Um, but I don't think he. I think he's going to have a greater challenge on that because there is so much talent that's available now. Do we wish we had more talent that could hit the long ball? Sure. Um, but I heard Andre talking about that the Orioles farm system and the Royals farm system that are some of the best farm systems in the league. They're kind of doing the same thing that the Guardians are doing, where they're bringing in a lot of middle infielders, and then what happens is they all compete, and then eventually the best players are going to play and stick, and the other ones are going to have to fill in other positions, or you
Yeah.
use them as trade. So I'm not saying that's the way I would necessarily go, but it seems to be trending in Major League Baseball for some teams. And the Royals being maybe a smaller market like us, you can kind of get that. Baltimore had a hell of a year last year, over 100 wins. So
And I
I'm
was
really
just going to say, you
surprised by
have to be very careful with that strategy, though, because when that one person does break out, you have to pay them a lot of money to keep them, as evidenced by Gunnar Henderson of the Baltimore Orioles and Bobby Witt Jr. of the Kansas City Royals, who both just got massively paid. Bobby Witt might be in Kansas City for life at this point. Who knows? And Ronald Acuna Jr. wants to be in Atlanta for life.
that. Mhm.
And for some reason, that doesn't look like it's going to happen. And a lot of that comes down to the business aspect of it. Is it worth the money?
Yes, and our challenge too with so many young players where what were we the not last I mean last year we were still young too, but even the first year when we came back and won the division, I think that was we were looking at being the last time I think the youngest team made the World Series, I think was the 86 Mets at that point. So you already have history against you. But as young as our rosters going to continue to be this year, the power is something that we've talked about on past episodes here, how that will eventually come for a younger player. Even Jose, for example, didn't start out with a lot of power. The power was eventually developed just even through, yes, through training, yes, but it's also through age too. And getting out there and just getting that game experience, confidence, being able to drive the ball. Um, who would our next guy be in line behind Jose if you want to eliminate last year? We talk about the previous year where Andres Jimenez was up there, towards what was he like fifth or sixth or seventh or something for even like with MVP type voting where he can bat 300, he can get you, he's going to get you obviously double digit home runs, but he had a Gold Glove last year, so it seems like the front office thinks that we're almost going to have the mentality of remember when Omar played for so long for Cleveland because what? He didn't hit for power. He was a hell of a Gold Glove. He was a hell of a hitter, switch hitter, could hit 300. It seems like they want a bunch of Omars on the team and not have the big power guys. I'm hoping that changes with this Kyle Manzardo trade and with our
Here's the
number
thing,
one first overall pick coming up.
the long ball is sexy. We've always said that. But it doesn't always win championships, not by any stretch.
Right.
And if you can get consistently on base, and now with the bigger bases and the throw over rule and the pitch clock, now that we've got a year of that under our belt, I wonder if that is what we're building towards, perhaps. Maybe we don't want a power team. Maybe we just want guys who can get on base and steal a bag and then steal another bag, and then you've got a runner on third with one out or less than two outs, and all you got to do is drive a ball deep enough, get it to the wall, and sack fly him in. I don't know. And I don't know that that's necessarily going to work. But you have a log jam in the middle infield right now. You talked about it earlier. And I know we've talked about Gabe Arias. There's also the problem of what do you do with Brian Rocchio? You have to imagine he's going to be here or he's going to get dealt. And we don't want a Junior Caminero spot again because he right now is the number one prospect in Tampa's organization. They're projecting that he might break camp with Tampa, and he could have been here. I worry very much about the moves that this team is making as a fan, simply because it doesn't really make a whole hill of beans to me. Like, it doesn't make any sense. You're looking at a team that at one point during this offseason actively discussed trading one of the best closers in the game today in Emmanuel Clase. And I don't know if Clase had something going wrong last season. He definitely didn't have the same speed and the same cut on his pitches. It wasn't quite the same guy. You're hoping that a year down, we're going to get back to where Clase was 2 years ago when he was mowing down Aaron Judge in the middle of Judge's 62 home run season. But the fact that that discussion was even being had is startling and kind of frightening because it really means nobody's safe except maybe Jose Ramirez.
Yeah, I mean, Class A, I mean, in fairness, and I was going to bring this up anyways, but I don't know if you were a baseball card collector, but Top Series 1 came out this week.
Yes, I
Unfortunately,
am.
I haven't been able to crack any packs open, but I go back to when you just mentioned about Class A. I remember just looking at my old cards, and you'd flip over the back, and you would just see that same team name over and over again. And if you remember, they would, change the font on certain things. Maybe they were the league leader in saves that year, so it would stand out different than the other ones. But if you remember that list of years, seeing a guy play, that they're just guys that you have off years, right? I mean, I think that's where we were last year with Jose. I mean, he was a little banged up too, but same with Klaus. Sometimes you're just gonna have a year that's not as good as the year before. But didn't he lead the league in saves last year?
And that's actually what
Still,
I was going to mention. He still was the top of the save chart. So it's
right.
kind of weird. Even in a down year, he's still really, really good. So why are you trying to move him when he sounds like a key piece of your entire bullpen that you want to build around, that you want to make sure is there so that when you get into these 1-0 games or these 2-1 games, since you have no offense whatsoever, that you can actually close the door.
Yeah, and I just think he's an important part of the team. We'll find out, when we like last year, how upset the team was at the trade deadline when we didn't do. I don't want to say we didn't do anything because we actually traded Savali to Tampa, but that
Which
we
was
didn't
a
do anything.
that was a good trade. 100% a good trade. I don't even think he played for Tampa in the postseason.
Right, I can't remember that, but yeah, but yeah, I'll be curious to see how well we do this first half of the year, and whether or not Colossae would get moved at the trade deadline. But gosh, that's so far away. I don't want to think negative. Um, but yeah, it'll just be great to have him back. I think he's gonna. I think he'll bounce back. This is the year of the rebound. I think offensively, and the words that were used when we won our division, not last year, the year before, was a disgusting brand of baseball. And we just didn't care because we were stealing bases, we were hitting triples, Ahmed Rosero had a 1 million singles. We were still just moving guys along and scoring runs and doing a great job manufacturing. Like you talked about, do we need all that power to necessarily compete? I think we need some. We need some threats in the lineup. However, look at the '85 Cardinals that had Vince Coleman and Willie McGee and Ozzie Smith, three guys that could fly, but hit 300 and get on base.
They also played on AstroTurf, so let's be
That was
reasonable
that
here.
was a green parking lot those
It- it-
days.
You hit a bouncer up the middle, that thing's taking like a 16-foot hop over Ozzy.
How the hell
But
Ozzy could field that? I have no idea. I
he
know.
would have, though. He would have jumped 16 feet in the air and been like,
I
got it.
know.
But you mentioned something there, and I think that's ultimately where we need to get back to the disgusting brand of baseball. Because it's now easier to steal bases than ever before in the history of baseball. It's easier because, and I saw this on MLB Network, and it clicked in my head. If you have any significant amount of speed, if you're a B plus speed guy, you should be required to get a throw over because on that second throw over, you're taking off. You are not waiting anymore because no matter what happens, you have caused something to happen with that pitcher. You have put the fear of doubt into that pitcher. And that's important. We've seen how easy it is to get in a pitcher's head and trigger the big inning just by getting one guy to throw them off their game. You could say that about Karinchak last season in at the start of the season in Seattle. The pitch clock triggered something in him that he was never the same again. And they rode us all the way through to a win on opening day. And they made us look foolish. You could say the same thing about Johnny Cueto in the postseason. Had that same problem with Cincinnati in Pittsburgh. They rattled him, and it led to a big inning. It doesn't take much to jostle a pitcher because they have a set routine. And when you're able to get in their head and change their routine, change their timing, even just a split second's difference can be the difference between a ground ball to short or a looper over the shortstop's head. And that's all it takes to win a game.
And there's gamesmanship like that. I remember doing the same thing where pitchers trying to just even as adults and playing in adult softball leagues where you got a guy just trying to speed pitch in. And he throws the first pitch over as a strike, and then he's trying to hurry up and throw the second one. And then you just step out, call time, step out of the batter's box. We're like, dude, I'm throwing you off your rhythm. You're not doing that to me. It's not happening. But that's part of the game. And I enjoy that. I enjoy the chess match, stuff like that. I should have sent you this. There was something on Instagram, and thank God they can't throw over nonstop all the time. But it was a Vince Coleman video where they threw over, and I think it was 17 times
I've seen
for
that
this
video.
one. Did you see it?
I saw it.
But what did he end up doing after they finally when he threw the pitch? Vince still stole the base. It was
He's,
the biggest complete waste of time.
I
And
mean,
my
that's,
gosh, I'm not going to miss that at all.
well, I don't miss it, but it was part of the game.
And
And
it still
it's
is on a minor, lower level.
very minor lower level. And that's, look, I hated the idea of the pitch clock because I'd already been to minor league games and seen it in action. And I saw how much it changed the rhythm of the game. And it's one of the reasons why I'm glad Rob Manfred's almost done. We only got 5 more years of this dude, and then he's out the door. Thank God. Because he has done more detrimental harm to the game of baseball than even Bud Selig could have, and he was out there passing around anabolic steroids.
I'm not
Like,
with you on that, man. I like what Manfred's doing. I think that he's looking at the other pro sports, and I know you're saying, it's changing the game and it doesn't look the same or whatever. Hell, what's going on tonight? It's probably right now, actually. We're probably going to be, or what? No, it comes on later. The NBA All Star game with the LED court and all that. It looks different, but it's something that it's part of the change. And I think baseball has always been behind NBA and the NFL, and they're finally getting up to speed on making some of these changes because I live an hour away from Progressive Field. And if that game starts at 7 o'clock and it's going to get over at 10, and I got to work and work the next day, but I got another hour yet to drive home, my chances of going to a weeknight game are slim and none. I want the game start. Like I like those 6 o'clock starts that
oh,
they
I do
have.
too.
Early on in the season, I like the games getting over quicker. I'm sure as hell if you're an usher and anybody that works at the stadium that's got to clean up, you want to get your stuff done and get out too. So it's I know that baseball has got so many traditions, man, so deeply rooted in fans and just in the game in general. But I like that they're at least introducing and making some of these changes to make it even a more watchable to me type game. Like you and I could sit back and if they didn't make any of the changes, we'd still enjoy the game, right? But I do like the fact that they're trying to make these changes to do this. You know, the Apple TV, I don't know what you think of Apple TV's coverage. I think it looks pretty clean and smooth. Do I need to know all the stats and data? Kind of cool to have it there, but it doesn't sometimes it doesn't mean that if, the hitter's down 0-2 and now his chances are way low that he's even going to get on base. You and I both know that don't mean jack. This is baseball. It's baseball, right? I go back to, and you brought up about a Pirate playoff game. I go back to, I think it was the 92 NLCS when you had Stan Belinda on the mound and then Francisco Cabrera, the backup catcher, the Austin Hedges of the Braves, was there in that spot. And Andy Van Slyke's playing center field for the Pirates, and he's yelling to Barry Bonds to scoot up. And I can't repeat right now. I guess I could, but I'm not going to repeat what Barry said back to him. And sure as shit, Cabrera gets that fastball and lines it into left field. And Sid Bream, one of the slowest damn people in the world, playing baseball at that time, scores from second base by a hair because Bonds didn't scoot up. But then you have a backup catcher whose batting average, it was his career moment. And that's what's fun about baseball is those career moments that somebody can have where it's the unexpected, like we're at the NBA, right? It's typically stars making the clutch plays, right? It's not usually the backup point guard like when Deladova had to play for an injured Kyrie back in the NBA Finals, where Delly was starting to step up. But that's what's fun about baseball is you get those guys that might not be the best player in the team, but they get that opportunity, say in a game at the beginning of May, where it's Miles Straw, right? How many times last year was everybody bringing up about Miles Straw and why are we not pinch hitting for him? I can see a manager early on in the season putting players like that in the 9 hole that are barely hitting over 200 and giving those opportunities because you never know what can happen later in the season, right? But it happened so many times for us last year where it
Yeah.
did get to the point where, you know what, I can't argue away from this now. I can see where we would need to get some guys off the bench and get a pinch hitter that's probably going to be better, with a better average. So
You're you just reminded me of Tony Pena in
I
the
kind of went
90s.
all over the place. I went around the horn on that one. My
Yeah,
bad.
hey, it's a baseball podcast. So you can get away with that stuff, you know. But Tony Pena had the game winning home run in I think the
Yeah,
97 ALCS against the Red
80
Sox.
or 95.
95, sorry. But he wasn't a home run hitter. Hell, he wasn't a hitter. He was just there. And we had a guy that drilled one to left and sent everybody home happy. That momentum brought us to the 95 World Series where we got absolutely demolished by the greatest pitching World Series in history.
Thanks to the wide strike zone. Don't get me started on that. Me and Kenny Lofton could go all day of the wide strikes that were called. And I'm a Braves fan too. That's my number two.
I
I love
respect
the
the
Braves.
Braves. The
I
95
was,
Braves is probably one of the best teams I've ever seen. Like that
and I,
rotation could have gone up against the Murderers Row New York Yankees and won. And that's honest to God the truth.
and it was, I loved, in '92 when they went to the World Series, I went crazy in my house. Why am I a Braves fan? Thank you, cable television in the '80s, bringing me WTBS to be able to watch the Braves and Dale Murphy. So that's why I have another team because I loved baseball so much, collecting cards, playing ball in the backyard. My buddy and I, we still have stat sheets from we used to play backyard baseball when we were in like elementary and middle school. So I absolutely love the game. Of course I'm a Cleveland fan. That's my top team, but it's always about, I used to go to the old stadium, Paul, with my parents, and when we'd go to Indians games when there'd be hardly anybody there. And one of the main things that I would get at the end of the game, which was the coolest my dad did for me, was when back then they would have all the plastic hard helmets, like the batting helmets, not with
Hmm.
the ear flap, just the old school 80s ones. And you'd have all the different teams back behind the stand where you could, buy souvenirs. And it's like, man, so I got like a Reds one time. And, I go back in the backyard and have my wiffle ball bat and try to thinking you're Pete Rose. So I absolutely just love baseball. And I'm so glad that we're back talking baseball here this week. It's been long overdue, and I know we could go on and on. And Paul, is there some other things we want to touch on tonight? I know
Well,
we've been on for 45 minutes, and we still got some viewership out there, and I love it. And I know we could go on and on, but is there any other topics we want to talk about before we
you were talking about the Braves being your team
go to
because
our
of
closing?
TBS. Hell, my team was the Cubs because of WGN, and I got
Yeah.
screwed in 2016 pretty damn bad.
You
So
were
we
me
both
in
got.
'95 then.
I was you in '95, and
I
in
couldn't celebrate
2016,
the Braves win because they lost to my team.
I still have not yet watched the final out of the 2016 World Series. I have closed my eyes every time I see it in a recap video. I refuse to watch it. Like it's painful to watch because that was our World Series. That was ours, and the weather gods did not play in our favor. Let's put it that way.
That's
That
true.
that one sucks. So the Guardians have the first number one pick in Cleveland baseball history. We've been talking about this rookie resurgence, this young team. Are you excited about having a number one pick for the first time ever?
It's neat. It was fun to see that the organization was so like because it came out of nowhere, right?
It did. I watched that
That was
live
fun.
when the lottery was going on, and I'm watching it going because MLB Network had the projections of who was going to go where, and it was going up and up and up, and I'm like, oh my god, we're going to make the top five. Oh my god, we're in the top three. Holy crap, we have a shot at number one. Oh my god, like that's stuff that you don't see anywhere but Cleveland, if we're being completely honest.
I was listening to it on the radio as I was driving home, and Dustin Fox was on there. They kept talking about it. I'm like, oh, okay, this is intriguing. And then, like you said, it just kept going to the next. It's like, oh, they didn't call their name. Cleveland still got a chance. So, am I excited about it? Yeah, I'm excited for the opportunity. I wish there was a no brainer at number one, you know, but you know how baseball is. Um, it's there's a middle infielder that's right there, and there's also a first base prospect that's got power that
Yeah,
from Wake Forest that there's a potential to be there. So what direction they go, I don't know.
it's
It'll
almost fitting that for the first time that Cleveland gets the number one pick, there is no consensus number one. And not only is it not a consensus number one, we really don't need either one of those two options.
it
Like
didn't.
we've got enough middle infielders, we've got a solid enough first base. We really don't need that. And I don't. So the Guardians can't trade this pick. Let's put that out there so that people don't try to speculate wildly here. The pick is locked. We are the number one pick. You can't deal that pick. Anything inside of the top five, if I'm not mistaken, are not eligible for trades or transactions. So that is important. We are going to make the number one pick. But man, it's just so damn Cleveland for that to happen to us.
Well, we'll find out. We just hope it's somebody that. What's different about baseball too is there's nobody running out to buy this particular player's jersey after he gets drafted. The same way you would probably for an NBA player or an NFL player and I'm hoping that maybe that it's going to be a college player that we could see pretty quickly. That's what
I
I'm
mean,
hoping.
a lot of people bought Paul Skeens jerseys in Pittsburgh after he was named the number one pick last year, and he's on a fast track to Major League.
Yeah, I hope to see
I,
that too.
I would love to see that for us because we need some sort of spark, and I think that's really the problem here is we just need a spark to give us that next level, that momentum push that we've been needing for the last 18 or so months.
Mhm.
Maybe it could be our new City Connect jerseys. You know, new jerseys because Nike can't make jerseys worth a damn. We're not getting sponsored by Nike, so don't worry about that, Kev.
Hey Kevin, where's our marathon? Where's our marathon logo? Just like on the
Eh.
sleeve of the Guardians. Maybe we need to reach out to Marathon and get them as one of our sponsors as well. So, but
Have
are
you
you
heard all
excited
the?
for the? I meant to ask you all. Hold on a second. I meant to ask you a question, but you had a list of topics for tonight's show. What do you think about the new red hat that's for batting practice and spring training? So, if you want to go ahead with your comments, I'm
God, I'm
ready.
having PTSD to the worst jersey we ever had. That freaking cream colored jersey that was so. I hated that jersey. And I hated the hat because the hat was the most unlucky hat we had. Now, granted, this hat looks pretty solid, but so did the other one. And then we started losing significantly. I'll give it the benefit of the doubt because I don't know what it's going to do. Maybe it's lucky. I don't know. I think I have to buy one for my co host on Double Play CLE, Justin, because he loved the old red hat. So I probably have to buy him that one as like a late birthday Christmas present because he's a freaking December baby.
No, I like that. At first,
It's not
when
bad.
when I first saw this logo come out, I'm like, did an eighth grade design student make that? Like, is it looked like something from the California Angels at that time, like almost something off of that. But it started to grow on me because you know how these sports teams are. They're like, doesn't matter, shove it down the fans' throat, they'll buy it. And but yeah, so the G logo is definitely growing on me. I still like our C. This is still the number one for
Yes.
me.
The
Um,
one that I like the best, though, is the batting practice hat that they're going to release.
mm,
And if you get a chance to take a look at that one, it's going to have a white front with a red and a blue stripe, the same G, and then it's going to have a blue crown and a red cap, a red bill. That one looks really good. It looks like a something from the 80s, like the
I
80s,
like.
90s kind of
I
jersey.
did see it, but I do not like the blue stripe. So I have a Indians hat upstairs that has the white front, Chief Wahoo, red bill, navy blue around the hat, and I loved. To me, that was because the Baltimore Oriole hat is one of my favorite hats in all of baseball. I love the orange bill with the white with the bird on it and the black. I think that's super sharp. I love the Jays, the Blue Jays when they have theirs with the white back.
It's a
Growing up
nice
80s.
throwback.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. So I just didn't care for the stripe behind it. To me, it's just a little too much for me. But
That's fair.
if those City Connects come out, it will be interesting to see fans' reaction. There's a lot of good fan designs that are out there that I've saw on Twitter that are pretty neat that are using the Major League logo, kind of with the baseball and the sunglasses with the mohawk. I've seen that one, so I'm
I would
hoping
not
it's
be
something
surprised if
interesting.
that's. I would not be surprised if there's some sort of connection to the movie Major League. I really wouldn't,
I would hope so. It would
because
be
it
fun.
there's not much else that you can tie us to except for rock and roll and guitars. And God help me, we've done that to death.
Yeah, that was the first thing I saw on Twitter when they talked about City Connect was like for God's sake, please, no guitars, no guitars. We're good on that.
My reckless speculation, wild speculation here is that it's going to be tied to the Cleveland script signs that are throughout the city. I think that's going to be across the front. I think it'll say Cleveland, not Guardians, or anything like that. And I think it'll
Mhm.
play off of that because they've been very specific in every bit of the Twitter mentions and social media mentions that it's for Cleveland. And I'm talking in capital letters. So it's not going to say the land, the CLE, believe land, although God help me, we would have gotten buku bucks out of that, I'm sure.
Yeah, Kevin
It,
would have bought us all authentic jerseys, sent them directly to our house, probably personalized too.
oh man, now that's a missed opportunity. We're going to have to do that at some point. We'll just make up our own jerseys. But
That's right.
I think you're going to see them say Cleveland. And I think that's going to be the key to this because it really feels like they want this to be not just a home jersey, but also a road jersey. because you're seeing that with a lot of the City Connect stuff, where they're actually taking some of these on the road and wearing them as well. Plus,
Mhm.
interesting fact: the Dodgers are getting a new City Connect jersey, and they were one of the first teams to get a City Connect jersey. So they're the only team that's had two City Connect jerseys so far. And the Yankees, and I can't remember the other team, opted out of the program entirely.
Well, the Dodgers doing it is no surprise considering they want to recoup some of that money that was spent.
$1
When you're
billion.
yeah, when you're doing City Connects, it's all about the cash sales. It's all about selling more jerseys, make more money, and whatever helps us start to expand on our spending going into next year. Even though I remember during one of last year's episodes when you and I were talking about that, you brought up Juan Gonzalez. Anybody? And I was like, "Yep, I do remember that." We we did that. I have to think more about Nick Swisher and how rough that
That was the
contract.
next name that was coming to my mind. And you could
Yeah,
also say Josh Bell now.
yeah. But
Like,
that was short lived. Thank God. The Marlins took that on. So we we should announce as far as money and players go, that it has been announced, and I have to look it up. I think it's February 27th at the IX Center at the Cleveland Auto Show. It's going to be an autograph session from 6:30 till 8 o'clock. None other than Carlos Baerga, who's been
all
back,
right.
but Albert Bell is going to be in person at the IX Center for an autograph session. I'm like super excited for that. I have like all these different posters that I have. I do have Albert Bell posters. I would like to go get one of those signed because Albert was such a big part. And I tell you what, for anybody that did not watch the Chris Rose interview with Albert Bell, it was a great interview. It gave you some more insight to what he's been doing since playing, living out in Arizona. But he actually hearing him tell the story of how things happened in Cleveland, it was really interesting. It was great to hear some humility with him, with his time here, and but also the appreciation I think that he did have while he was here. Because remember, I've seen him play at the Canton Akron Indians games, before he even made it up. I actually have one of his Fleer rookie cards that's autographed Joey Bell, and I think it was number 36 at that time.
Man, it's weird to see Albert Bell suddenly being embraced by the media, because for the longest time he had a hate relationship,
Yeah,
not a love hate relationship, just a pure
yeah,
hate relationship with the media. And to see him get a second chance is kind of interesting.
and he,
He's made a lot of mistakes. Let's not try to
yeah.
sweep that under the bus here.
Yeah, I'm not
But
saying let's build a statue.
no, and but he was a big part of that team. You're talking the 95 team that went all the way to the World Series. Without Albert, I don't think you're going there.
No,
You could also say the same
100%.
thing about Jim Thome. It it's good to see that he has found peace, because for the longest time he definitely did not. And if that means that he is going to be accepted and respected again, that's fine. It's it's tough to for me as a fan to respect somebody who went to a direct competitor, the Chicago White Sox, as well as the Baltimore Orioles, and basically blasted the team and the fans the way he did. And I think, what has it been, 25 years now? Almost 30
Right.
years? Yeah, I guess that's fair, and time heals all wounds, but man, that left a sour taste in a lot of mouths for a long time.
It did, and you said find peace, and I'm so glad you said that because to be honest with you, I found peace in listening to that interview. Not only did I listen to the interview, but I listened to Chris when he came on Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show and talk about the interview afterwards too. So anybody out there looking to uh, gain a little more information about Albert Bell and what he's up to now, and just what was going on back in the 90s, and he explained that whole free agency thing, and you can hear him, and you can understand why in some situations that the media yes, can't be trusted. And I know we're in the media. That's why I think it's so important not to over speculate, and you want to present yourself in a positive light. And when you're telling the story of someone, that you're giving the correct information and there is no guessing. But some people that maybe if you came across and you're covering them and you had a bad relationship, media people in the media would have be more likely to just let something go, which I believe helped conflict with the him re-signing with the team. So yeah, definitely check those out and watch those. I found peace watching that because I always wanted to know more information, and I look back at it differently because I don't see how fans would be if somebody left now. I mean, we're trading our guys away, right? We're traded to Lindor, the last big trade. Are we going to trade Bieber if we're not in the division race at the deadline? Are we going to trade Clase? Those things will happen. We're not going to let contracts just run out and not get nothing in return like we were doing back then. So,
It
but
does annoy me a little bit that the players that leave here tend to go to our division rivals. Jim Thome did it. Carlos Santana is doing it. I think he signed with
Twins,
some the Twins. He was with Kansas City. That stuff annoys me a little bit because as a player from this team and from this city, the division is our rivals. That's it. And to go to another one of those kind of irks me. I get the financials on it, but man, you're not sitting here telling me that just because you hit all the more home runs in your career at Kauffman Stadium than at any other ballpark on the road, that you're going to go there as the home player and that's going to keep going. You're
as a
talking about the
Cleveland fan,
pitching.
let me say Joe Flacco. So look how quickly that turned around.
Yeah.
Somebody playing for division rival that has T-shirts like crazy right now, and he probably won't even be on the team next year. But I really don't have a problem with that. I was a huge Carlos fan, even when I was so happy when he came back a second time. I was pulling for him last year. I would love to see him join the team when he was with Pittsburgh. Yeah, I would have loved to have him back, but I know that would go back to the very beginning of our live show, talking about bringing back basically retread formers.
All a loop.
Yeah, this is the circle of life, and uh, also without a World Series trophy. So, but yeah, let's wrap it up tonight. Paul, I really appreciate you being on. Do you want to talk a little bit more about Double Play CLE and what we need to do to help promote Believe Land Media?
Well, I just want to say thank you for having me on, and I want to send a shout out to Mel. We're all filling her seat until she gets back, and it's taking basically the entire team to fill this seat, and there's a reason for that. And I hope that whatever she is going through, she can find her peace because we're all supporting you in everything that's going on. I don't know everything that's going on, and I don't want to know everything that's going on. All I can simply say is thank you for allowing me to be one of the many that's going to fill this spot until you make your triumphant return.
All I know is when she comes back, she better have about 15 pounds of muscle on and be able to probably hit 40 home runs this year, Mel. That's all I'm talking about. You better
You're
you better come back bigger and stronger and help us in the four hole this year.
you're going to encourage her to become the first female major leaguer in history,
Absolutely.
potentially at the trade deadline.
Well, you still have to get tested yet, so hopefully she won't
I'm
get
perfectly
tested. If she comes
fine.
back 15 pounds, ready to smash some homers at Progressive Field. So
I'm more of a pitcher, anyways. I can throw a gentleman's 39.
I hit my one pitch count last year at the Akron Rubber Ducks game. I was good. Hope we get some more opportunities. But I just want to thank you, Paul, for coming on. Thank everybody for supporting the show. Continue to follow our Believe Land Media platforms as we look to grow our live shows here as part of the Believe Land Media Live Network. There is a channel, a new channel on YouTube that I'd like you to check out and follow. Believe Land Media Live. We are going to look to separate some of our high school coverage and some of our pro coverage through these live shows. So check out both of them. I know we're currently live on regular Believe Land Media YouTube. But we will be making some additions and some changes going forward into the season. But yeah, check all the Believeland Media across social media platforms. Continue to follow us. The guys right now are doing a great job doing a lot of basketball coverage, high school and college at Kent State. I know there's going to be MAC championship games up in Cleveland that we're looking to cover as well. So continue to follow there. And we're hoping to maybe cover the women's Final Four up in Cleveland. So we're going to, yes, exactly. So we're going to look to
Hey, wait,
continue to expand our coverage.
does that mean we get the Caitlin Clark bracket? Because that'd be awesome.
Yes.
Shout out to the
I hope
greatest
she makes it. That'd be good
female
for the city.
shooter in history of college basketball.
And we have a pretty good women's team down at Ohio State. So maybe the Lady Buckeyes make the Final Four as well and just continue to add to the excitement that's going to be going on, because the women's Final Four will be the weekend before opening day on April 8th, downtown Cleveland, which is going to be a 5:10 first pitch. I believe the gates open at 2 o'clock. I did just purchase my tickets today for opening day, so I will be down there. Look for me at Progressive Field. I'd love to talk some Guardians baseball with you.
Do not be in the stands at 3:13 p.m. That is when
Wow.
the eclipse is going to be at its totality. If you're not sure what I'm talking about here, the solar eclipse
No.
is going to
Oh,
come
yeah.
over Cleveland. It's
I
going to
can't
be
wait.
behind the third base dugout. Like, it's going to be behind the third base seats because of the way that the stadium sits. So you won't be able to see it in the stadium. You have to be outside of the stadium, the
Well, that's
majority of
what I
it.
was thinking. If you go up, say, even in like the upper level and you're behind third base, I think you should still be able to see out that way.
It's going to be iffy. And if you really want to enjoy this once in a lifetime moment, make sure you have a clear, unobstructed view. I think the best place for any Guardians fan to watch it is going to be from just outside the stadium on the strip there, where the little grass median and all that stuff on Eagle Avenue. That's going to be your best shot. Let's hope for a clear day, because this is something that none of us are going to have a chance to see ever again. The next time that we as regular Ohioans can just go outside our front door and see a solar eclipse is like 400 years from now. And granted, I enjoy Futurama, but I don't intend to live to 400 years old. And I really don't want to be a head in a jar. So I'm going out of my way to make sure I can enjoy this and enjoy WrestleMania the weekend prior.
That's right. And I was thinking that it's are we should we even be assuming that we're going to be able to see the sun that
It's
day?
a
Now,
very
darkness in
answer.
Cleveland, we're so used to. Just have so many damn dark days. Like, hey, where the hell did the sun go? But it is April, right? So we should hopefully, man. I hope everything just works out, because it should be a really fun time downtown, and hopefully we start off the season good with a home win on the 8th, and that's my birthday week, and I can't wait to see hopefully some of you listeners, followers, fans down there, and just talk some Guardians baseball. So
Hey, Chicago's in town, so we have a chance to win this thing.
that's right. So everybody take care. Thanks again for watching our episode tonight. I know it went over an hour, so we appreciate your time. Paul's very proud of that. We went extra innings tonight, and but yeah,
I
until
want to
next
give people
time.
more bang for their buck.
That's right. Well, it's been a while, so we owed him a little bit of something. So, but yeah, until next time, everybody take care. Thank you, and go Guardians.